Doc Rivers gets fired. They're already looking for replacement. The rumors have already started about Joel Embiid going somewhere else. A lot of stuff going on very quickly. Let's get it. What's going on, folks? This is Coach Marcus for Pro Fan Talk, and Doc Rivers was fired post-haste. They didn't waste no time in getting rid of Doc. In my opinion, you can't really blame this series on him. You got the league MVP, and they play like hot garbage. You got the league MVP and James Harden. James Harden is probably going to end up being a Hall of Famer. Joel Embiid, the jury's still out. He's got a lot of basketball still to play. But for your two best players to show up like that in a Game 7, that is not the coach. That is not the coach. The same Doc Rivers that was coaching when Harden dropped 41 was the same Doc Rivers that was coaching when Harden and Embiid combined to go 8 for 29 in a Game 7. So I'm not putting that on Doc whatsoever. This team lives or dies if shots are falling. For whatever reason, if Joel Embiid's mid-range and his shots outside the 3 arc are not falling, they're always in trouble because he doesn't have the wherewithal or the basketball IQ to go down low and bang the paint where you can get some short points. Get yourself warmed up, keep banging down low, dip out, hit a couple mid-range. When they start falling, then you get outside. Once you got to get your flow going, and you got to put points on the board. But everybody, especially him as a 7-footer, is playing all the way out at the 3-point arc. If your shots aren't falling, it doesn't matter. Harden was the same way. The only difference between the game he dropped 41 and the game the other night, the Game 7 the other night, his shots didn't fall that night. He was taking the same shots. They just didn't fall. Wasn't in his rhythm. Hadn't found a stroke yet. And he was struggling. He shot an air ball from like 10 feet. So, as a player, you got to show up in those games. As a player that just got voted the MVP, you have no excuse. Joel Embiid, brother, you have zero excuse. Take it on the chin. You're going to take all of this talk that's coming from sports talk and YouTube and all these media heads that think they know everything. But on this one, it's crystal clear, man. You did not show up. And there's nothing you can say about it. All of the cliches are going to come back. We're going to get them next year. I got to be better. Blah, blah, blah. Now you got a whole year to deal with this nonsense. A whole year. And nobody's going to have confidence with you. Nobody's going to have confidence if Joel Embiid stays with the Sixers. Me, for one, I won't speak for nobody else. I said the same thing this year. I don't want to see nothing or hear nothing about Joel Embiid until we get to the playoffs. And then when we got to the playoffs, that's when I started to pay attention. But I still don't want to hear anything until they get past the second round. Get a lead in the series, and you can't seal the deal. They force a Game 7, and when you get a Game 7, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But you know what happened? Jason Tatum, Heat got red hot and continued from the Game 6 that he came alive in the fourth quarter and outscored Joel Embiid by himself. Matter of fact, he outscored the Sixers by himself in the fourth quarter. He scored 15, and I believe the Sixers only scored 13 in the fourth quarter of that Game 6. And I'll say it again. In that game, Joel Embiid had Al Horford flexing on him. And I'm like, if you the MVP and you can't deal with Al Horford, you need to get that trophy back. Send it right on up out to Denver. Because that's hot garbage. If you don't have enough basketball IQ to get your ass down on the blocks and bang the boards and bang the paint, where you can get some surefire buckets and fouls. Get to the free throw line and start putting points on the board. Maybe you get a couple rebounds, offensive rebounds, because the 2 games that I really watched, every time we outside on the arc, somewhere near on the perimeter, shooting those long shots, those long 2s and those long 3s, nobody's under the basket for offensive rebound. Nobody. It's like we forgot how to do that. And we got a 7-footer. So I'm not blaming this on Doc one bit. We got the same Doc that we had when we was giving all that praise to James Harden and Joel Embiid winning the MVP. That's the same Doc that was coaching. So if it was good then, it should be good now. The only difference is the guys on the court that have to play didn't show up. So yeah, I understand why they had to get Doc. 3 years in a row, second round elimination. I get it. That's the nature of the beast. That's the way the business is run. So I understand that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get that. But players win games, not coaches. Players win games. A coach can draw the best play ever. But if the guys on the court don't execute, it's irrelevant. And that's what happened. Everybody on that team, with the exception of Maxey and Tobias Harris, looked done. The first half of that game 7, PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris was saving our ass. And everybody got everything to say about Tobias Harris, overpaid and all of that kind of stuff. How much he is paid is not his fault. Because if they stuck that money in front of your face, you would have signed the deal too. That's the Sixers' fault. That's not Tobias Harris' fault. He took what they gave him. I don't blame him. You can say he ain't worth it all you want to. That ain't his fault. But you know what? He looked better than Embiid did in Game 7. He looked better than Harden did in Game 7. All that goes out the door, man, when who's overpaid and who's not. Because if that's your bar, then obviously Embiid and Harden are way overpaid because they can't get jack done in the playoffs. Now everybody's going to say Joel Embiid is only worried about the MVP awards and getting his accolades. That's the only thing he's worried about. And the talk is coming right now. Now they talking about he ain't got no heart and all the other stuff that comes when you lose. But more importantly, when you lose like that, you got to take it on the chin. So, okay, Doc Rivers is gone. So who's going to be his replacement, right? So here are the names. Here are my names that I want to see. Number 1, Mark Jackson. I would love to have Mark Jackson bring his toughness and his basketball IQ to Philadelphia and keep Joel Embiid and Maxey. Everybody else can go. Whatever their contracts say, you can keep Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. James Harden can get gone. If Tobias Harris is here or not, it's irrelevant to me. We got to get other players. But as long as we have Maxey and Embiid, we're good. Mark Jackson, Monty Williams, what he just went through in Phoenix, Nick Nurse and Monty Williams, I could flip-flop them. Because for me, I'm going in order. My number 1 would be Mark Jackson. Number 2, Monty Williams. Number 3, Nick Nurse. Number 4, Sam Cassell. And number 5, anybody not named Mike D'Antoni. I don't want Houston in Philadelphia. I don't want the Philadelphia Rockets. We catch enough hell with the Philadelphia Bulldogs. But you know what? That's going to pan out for us. I don't want to be the Houston Rockets in Philadelphia. I don't want that. Mark Jackson, Monty Williams, Nick Nurse won a championship with the Toronto Raptors. That's extra credit. To me, that's on the same level as LeBron winning a championship in Cleveland. That's extra credit. He brought an NBA title to frickin' Toronto. They had only had a team for what, 6 years, 7 years or something like that? So he has to get extra credit for that. So you can bring that. Mark Jackson brings the toughness. Monty Williams, I think, is a good coach. Been to the finals. Nick Nurse, been to a championship. Sam Cassell's been around. Played in some championships. Been around championship people. So, plus he's been with the organization. So he's ingrained with the city. So he knows what to expect. So Cassell, I wouldn't mind seeing him. But I like the other three better. So we'll see what they're going to do. I got a strong feeling that James Harden is going to try to stay. And then Tony's going to end up here. I think that's going to be the determining factor if James Harden stays. But in my opinion, James Harden, his tank is more empty than full. He ain't empty, but, he had half a tank going down. James Harden's best days are behind him. Joel Embiid is in his prime. Tyrese Maxey hasn't reached his prime yet. So I can keep those two stalwarts. And because if for some reason you get rid of Joel Embiid, who are you getting to replace an MVP? Because you don't replace the player, in my opinion. You got to replace that production. You got to replace what he's doing on the court. Regardless of what you think and what he showed in the playoffs, you at least got to get to the playoffs. Or it wasn't a good deal. So who can you think of out there in the NBA ethos that'll be available for a trade or somebody like that? Who would you want to see to replace Joel Embiid? That's the question. If you gonna entertain that thought, and it's already started. Embiid rumors. I saw the thing from the New York Post, trying to list all of the teams that Embiid would look good for. Of course, they want to bring him up to the Knicks or Brooklyn. Now, why they would want to go through all of that with Brooklyn and Ben Simmons, to me that sounds silly. But if the money's right, I don't think he's going anywhere. But that's just what the rumors are saying. But if the Sixers are dumb enough to get rid of Joel Embiid, who are they going to get to replace him? Who are you going to get to replace those blocks and all of that production that we got in the regular season? In the regular season. That's the biggest question you're going to have. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But now we got to deal with this. And you know what? You take your medicine. He going to have to go through and he going to have to answer all these questions the whole off season. You got to go through this whole off season and deal with this nonsense every day. And every time somebody in Philly, I would doubt he would stay in Philly. Because every time somebody going to see him, you know how we do in Philly. They don't give a damn who you are. They going to give you the business. They're going to give you the business, and they're going to have a lot to say. And I don't think he's mentally tough enough to deal with that. So, we'll see what's going to happen. But the rumors have already started. You're going to get what you get when you lose a Game 7 like that. We had it in our grasp in Game 6, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't get it together, man. Couldn't get it together. So it is what it is. But stay tuned. More news is coming. I appreciate you for checking out the channel. Keeping up with my content. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that notification bell. And stay tuned as we bring more news to you. This is Coach Marcus. I'm out. See you in the huddle.